In a shocking turn of events that has left the residents of Ikorodu, Lagos, in disbelief, a 45-year-old man named Ayoola Bello met a tragic end at the hands of a married couple from Benin Republic. The couple, identified as Sunday Sojunu and his wife Toyin Sojunu, orchestrated a crime so chilling that it left the community reeling. To carry out their sinister plot, the Sojunas enlisted the help of a notorious figure, Dare Samson, a cultist with a reputation for ruthless violence. The twisted tale began innocently enough on social media, of all places. Ayoola Bello, a follower of Toyin Sojunu on TikTok, became drawn to her content. Toyin, a well-known content creator, often shared snippets of her life with her followers. Mr. Bello, a regular on the platform, soon began engaging with her posts, and it didn't take long for the two of them to strike up an online friendship. They started chatting regularly, and what seemed like a harmless connection quickly evolved into something far more dangerous. Despite the fact that Toyin was married to Sunday Sojunu, she allowed their virtual friendship to bloom into something more personal. The online exchanges eventually turned into secret messages, phone calls, and late-night chats. Behind the veil of her marriage, Toyin and Mr. Bello's relationship became intimate. It wasn't long before the two lovers began making plans to meet in person. This wasn't just a casual meeting, it was the beginning of an affair that would ultimately lead to tragic consequences. On the 15th of September, under the guise of a trip to Benin Republic, Toyin traveled away from her Lagos home. She told her husband, Sunday, that she was going to visit the neighboring country. But the truth was far more sinister. Instead of heading to Benin, Toyin took a bus to Ijebu-Oda in Ogun State to be with her lover, Mr. Ayoola Bello. They checked into a hotel together, spending the next 2 days in each other's company, away from the prying eyes of the world. It was during this time that the affair between Toyin and Mr. Bello became physical. After their brief but intense rendezvous, Toyin returned home, seemingly carrying on as if nothing had happened. But the secret she kept from her husband could no longer remain hidden. A few days later, Mrs. Toyin Sojunu made a shocking confession to her husband, revealing the truth about her affair with Mr. Ayoola Bello. Why she chose to admit her infidelity is still unclear. However, the consequences of her confession would be far deadlier than she could have imagined. Sunday Sojunu's reaction to the betrayal was not one of mere heartbreak or anger. It spiraled into something much darker. The pain of his wife's admission turned into a burning desire for revenge. Fueled by rage, Sunday Sojunu, with the help of his wife, sought out Dare Samson, a man known for his violent, merciless ways. Together, they concocted a plan to silence Ayoola Bello for good, and that plan would lead to his brutal kidnapping and murder. What transpired next remains a terrifying chapter in this horrifying true crime story. The orchestrators of the crime had planned every detail. They were determined to make sure that Ayoola Bello paid the ultimate price for what he had done. And as the authorities began piecing together the evidence, it became clear that this wasn't just an affair gone wrong. It was a calculated act of vengeance that ended in tragedy. The case of Ayoola Bello serves as a stark reminder of the hidden dangers that lurk behind the facade of social media and the devastating impact that betrayal can have on people's lives. The combination of jealousy, betrayal, and unchecked rage set the stage for an unthinkable crime that will haunt everyone involved for the rest of their lives. After Toyin Sojunu's confession of her affair to her husband, Sunday Sojunu, the married couple took a dark and dangerous turn. With the pain of betrayal still raw in his heart, Sunday devised a terrifying plan to exact revenge on Ayoola Bello, the man who had been involved with his wife. He didn't act alone in this twisted scheme. He enlisted the help of his wife, Toyin, and a notorious figure in the community, Dare Samson, a man with a reputation for violence and ruthlessness. Together, they plotted a horrifying trap for Mr. Bello, one that would seal his fate. It all started when Toyin reached out to Ayoola Bello. Despite the tumultuous events that had unfolded, she maintained her connection with him. Perhaps in an attempt to save face or manipulate him further, Toyin invited Mr. Bello to her home in Lagos, acting as though nothing had changed. She made sure to keep her true intentions a secret, presenting the invitation as an opportunity for the two of them to meet once more. Mr. Bello, who had no inkling of the deadly game being played, eagerly accepted her offer. He had an emotional connection with Toyin and believed that their affair, despite the complications, could still hold some promise. He had no idea that this meeting would be the beginning of his last moments on Earth. What Mr. Bello didn't know was that Sunday and Toyin had already set the trap in motion. They had contacted Dare Sampson, a man infamous for his involvement in violent activities, and made arrangements for him to assist in their scheme. The plan was simple, yet chilling. As soon as Ayula Bello set foot inside their home, he would be seized, held captive, and subjected to unimaginable cruelty. This was not going to be a reunion of any sort. It was a carefully crafted act of revenge. On the day of the meeting, Mr. Bello made his way to Lagos with a sense of anticipation. He traveled with hopes of rekindling what had once seemed like a genuine connection with Toyin. He arrived at her house, unsuspecting of the horrors that awaited him. As soon as he walked through the door, the nightmare began. Sunday and Dare Sampson sprang into action. They immediately overpowered Mr. Bello, restraining him and tying him up. The two men began their brutal attack, beating him senselessly, and subjecting him to harsh physical abuse. They were determined to make him suffer for his involvement with Toyin, and they didn't hold back. With every passing minute, Mr. Bello's hopes of escape faded, replaced only by the overwhelming terror of what was happening to him. But the cruelty didn't stop there. In a further display of their sadistic intentions, Sunday and Dare Sampson contacted Mr. Bello's family, claiming that he had been kidnapped. They demanded a ransom in exchange for his release, further extending the agony of Mr. Bello's loved ones. Desperate to see their family member again, Mr. Bello's family complied with the demands and sent the money. They believed that once the ransom was paid, their beloved relative would be freed and returned to them. However, their hopes were dashed when Sunday and Dare Sampson didn't keep their end of the bargain. Despite receiving the money, Mr. Bello remained trapped in the hands of his tormentors. The couple and Sampson didn't care for the ransom. They had a far more sinister fate in mind for Mr. Bello. The torture intensified. He was forced to drink a poisonous concoction, a final act of cruelty meant to ensure that he would never leave alive. Soon after, Mr. Bello succumbed to the poison. His life was tragically and senselessly cut short, the result of a twisted act of vengeance by the people he had once trusted. Sunday and Dare Sampson, aware of the horror they had just committed, knew that they had to cover their tracks. They carefully disposed of Mr. Bello's body, taking steps to erase any trace of their involvement in his death. But no crime goes unnoticed forever. It didn't take long before the authorities began piecing together the chilling details of Mr. Bello's disappearance and death. Investigations led to the arrest of Sunday Sojunu and Dare Sampson, who were charged with kidnapping, torture, and murder. The case went to court, where the public awaited justice for the innocent life that had been taken so brutally. As of now, the case is still ongoing in court, and the community hopes that justice will prevail. Mr. Bello's family, still grieving the loss of their loved one, eagerly await the outcome, hoping that those responsible for his death will be held accountable for their actions. This tragic and disturbing story serves as a stark reminder of the deep and sometimes deadly consequences that can arise from betrayal, jealousy, and the darkness that can lurk in the hearts of even the most familiar faces.